Hey everybody, it's Ian. I just wanted to talk you through the article assignment for Intro to Folklore. It's a fairly straightforward assignment, but it might be causing you a little bit of stress, so I just want to sort of describe my rationale behind it. This is an introductory level course. You are probably being introduced to the idea of peer-reviewed articles for the very first time. It's not something that they typically teach in secondary schools, in high schools, and so on. So you're just coming into a new thing. And so there's a kind of instrumentality to it. It's to help you familiarize yourself with databases. There's all this sort of like stuff that's sneaking in under the transom in terms of what I want you to do. But basically, there is a lot of stuff that has been written about a lot of topics that you are probably vaguely interested in. And if you can just sit down and flip through a journal and see what gets published, see what people write about, that might vaguely inspire you. Once upon a time, this is an assignment that you could do by going into the library and pulling journals off of the shelves and flipping through them. In times of COVID, that isn't necessarily as popular an exercise. And now in terms of electronic journals, the positive thing about electronic journals is that they're easier to subscribe to, they're easier to access from home. The negative is that you don't have that weird serendipity of just like, I'm just going to flip through this bound volume of journals and see what happens, see what I come across. But basically, I want you to find an article on something within a folklore journal, because that'll help narrow it down. At least you'll have certain assurances that what I am looking at qualifies as a folklore article. And find something, hopefully something that interests you, something that you could potentially use for your final project if you are the final assignment, which is sort of a fairly straightforward describing a folklore event or folklore performance within a particular group. And if you can find an article that's relevant, either to your group by analogy at the very least, if you're interested in doing something on certain forms of fan culture, then looking at an article that discusses a different kind of fan culture might be a useful exercise for you. If you're interested in memes, looking at an article that deals with memes might be interesting for you. If you're interested in traditional dance, looking at an article that talks about traditional dance might be interesting to you. Even if it isn't the traditional dance tradition that you are talking about. You want to do Highland dance? Well, here's something that talks about square dance in contemporary Appalachia. It's like, okay, well, they're different, but they're the same. So I want you to read an article. How do you read an article? Well, here's like a hint from your big brother Ian. Reading an article, you can do it quickly, because as you progress, you're going to be assigned a lot more things, and you're going to be thrust into the library more and more. And you are going to come across a citation. You're going to, should I read this? And the answer is yes-ish. You should skim it. So here's how to read an article. Take it out. If there's an abstract, read that abstract. It gives its synopsis as best you can. Read the introduction. Read the conclusion. Read the headings. Read the opening read the last paragraphs of the first section, which will often say, this article will da 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 da. If it doesn't say it in those exact words, it'll say it in something like that. Most articles in the introductory section give a kind of breakdown into, if not necessarily specifically how it happens, then if it's not so specifically, I'm going to talk about this, I'm going to talk about this, I'm going to talk about this, then at least they're giving the gist of the question. It's good to read the opening paragraphs of every section, and the closing paragraphs of every section. The data in the middle is important, of course, but you kind of want to skip quickly to see what are the basic things that this person is trying to say. Here's a hint. Often the first section after the introduction, so I'm not going to call it the first section, just to avoid confusion, is what they call methods, and that's or literature, and that is basically where they are saying what everyone previous to them has said about this similar topic. That's incredibly important. That is a very useful thing. That is also something that you can skip in your initial skim. because that's the thing that is often basically to prove that, oh, I know what I'm talking about, and I know that this has been covered before. Here's what I'm doing differently. And that's very nice and good, but that's not a conversation that you specifically are being engaged in. You are engaged in, give me the data, give me the data, give me the data. So that would be your first game. And then you'll probably go, hey, this is an interesting article. And then you can read it more thoroughly. So start with abstracts. If it doesn't apply, skip it. Start with opening paragraphs after the abstract. If the opening paragraph doesn't do anything for you, skip it. And then eventually you will find something that works. And this is how you read an awful lot of articles and then find the thing that suits you. When you find your article and you say, this is the one I want to do, what do they go about? What are they talking about? How does it sort of fit into how we've been laying out folklore? And I know we're halfway through the semester, and so there's other elements that we haven't gotten to yet, but we'll get there. And you could probably look ahead and say, well, I think this might be a thing of children's folklore. If you're not sure, who do they cite? Because an article is a contribution to an ongoing discussion. So they are using sources, they are using citations, they are going to be projecting how they want their reader to understand their question. What kind of research do they use? Are they doing field work? Are they doing archival research? Are they doing sort of a meta study where they are basically just reading what other people are reading and condensing it, which is legitimate, but it's just a different thing. What are their conclusions? Do you agree with their conclusions? How well written is it? How well organized is it? Is it good for the new reader? And I'm going to put you all in the same boat and suggest that you are all new readers in this discipline at the very least. You might have taken a couple of courses before, but if you're taking this course, chances are you are at least a bit of a naïf to this discipline. So it's like, well, does this help? Who do you think this is being written for? Sometimes you can find out a little bit about the person. So you might not know this name, and why would you? Because you're new here. And then you might read and go, oh, okay, well, this is someone XYZ, or, oh, this is an incredibly important person in this discipline. I did not know. That might be an interesting thing, because, sometimes very important people in the discipline, they start to get lazy in their writing, because it's like, everyone knows who I am. And so if you're like, oh. So you can critique the article. This is not a book report. And I always go with the idea, and this is an unpopular opinion, but I think it's actually better, that one of the things, and you can't stop me if I've said this before, but skip forward 15 seconds if this sounds familiar, that one of the purposes of teaching is for me to get something out of it. So what I have in this assignment, in a very sneaky, very underhanded, very conniving way, so I'm getting a whole bunch of intelligent people who don't necessarily know the stuff that I know, but have interests and are motivated for a number of reasons to go out and find stuff. Some of these things I might have read. Maybe I haven't read these things. And that's why this isn't a book report. This is an article review. This is basically you telling me why I should potentially read this, what value this is for me. And I could read it and say, this is obviously an excellent article. It's not pertinent to my particular research, so I'll probably put it on the back burner in terms of reading it. Or I might go, oh my goodness, how did I not know about this? You know what I'll do? I'm going to go and read that article, and I'm going to go find that article, and I'm going to do it. So that's why you put in citations. But you are telling me the difference between a book report and a book review, just to sort of give and you'll be probably asked to do book reviews at some time, and in other courses I teach, I have a book review assignment. A book report is basically, I need proof that you have read this thing. And that's what you do in lower grades. Book reviews are basically, they are like movie reviews. They are critical movie reviews. So they are like, you are making an argument about whether this thing that I don't have any experience with, most likely I don't have any experience with, is worth my time. And so you bring your understanding to it, its pros and its cons, you put it into a larger context. Book reviews are incredibly important to our discipline, to all disciplines. But so, because we can't read everything, so we have people read for us and tell us about them. And that is part of the collaborative nature. So an article review is basically the same thing. I'm hoping that you come across something that I haven't read that is going to be of interest to me. And you might not even realize that it's of interest to me because you don't know me. But I might go, hey, this is really kind of an interesting take on this thing, which kind of fits in sideways to this other thing. So that is what the article review is. It's not too long. Didn't even bring my sheets with me when I was filming this, but it's like, I don't know, 4 or 5 or 6 pages, somewhere in there. I'm going to put it on the slide, just that word is gospel. Tell me about it. Tell me about your experience reading it, what worked, what didn't. You might not like this article, and that's fine. You might not understand that article. And you need to sort of say, okay, why don't I understand it? Clearly, this is a conversation that I've sort of jumped into halfway through. I don't know exactly what the point of this article was. Here's what I do know, and you will know something, but you might not grasp conclusions. And you know what? That's fine too. This is the nature of doing this for a living. This is the nature of being an academic. I regularly teach articles that I have taught before. Not in this course. I try and keep them fresh, but in other courses, I've taught this like 5 or 6 times, and I read it new each time, and I'm like, oh, and each time I read it, I understand it a little bit better. So the fact that you don't understand it now, that's fine. There's tons of stuff that I'm halfway through, like, I don't understand this. And you know what? I can say this unequivocally. I know this stuff better than you do. That's why you're taking a class from me. And I still don't understand every article I read. But I have better precedent at being able to locate this question. But it's still like, I don't know about this. And I'll read it again, and eventually I will read it again and again, and I will get a better grasp of it. So what do you get from it? What is good about it? Because there's going to be something good about it. It's past peer review, so it's going to have something to say. It's being basically determined by a group of people that, yeah, this is an important thing to know. This is an important thing to release into the world. What are its strengths? What are its weaknesses? And you can do that. I have faith that you can do it. It's a very small assignment in terms of the matter of intensity, but it gets you looking at articles as these independent things. I'm going to have this video up as soon as I can. It's still due in the same time, and I'm available for questions at least by email. And the due date is, for me, it's always fairly fluid. I don't start putting, unless you're like super duper late, I don't start putting penalties in because that's not my vibe. But due dates are good because they keep you on track. And if you're just like, all I got to do is put things in on time, your semester will go well. Trust me, I put in everything late, and I'm a bundle of nerves right now. Oh my goodness. I could tell you stories, but I won't. Anyway, short video, going to edit it. Hopefully it'll be up very soon. Be well. I will see you soon. Take care, and bye-bye.